So on that point of this interpersonal relationship, let's call it, between the relationship between President Trump and President Xi, and the way that that plays into the broader bilateral relationship between the United States and China, I want to pull up another tweet from the president. Earlier today, he said, "Look, I like China and I like him a lot," reference to President Xi. "But as you know, when I campaigned, I was very tough on China in terms of trade. If they're helping me with North Korea, I can look at trade a little bit differently, at least for a period of time. And that's what I've been doing. But when oil is going in, I'm not happy about that." So again, he's alluding to the importance of his personal relationship with President Xi and essentially arguing that that really does greatly affect the broader bilateral relationship. Do you agree with that line?
Yeah, I mean, there is, I think there's potential there, but I think President Trump needs to show more sort of physical concern in terms of, and one example that he could use would be to put on sanctions on a number of smaller Chinese banks. Frankly, I don't think it would have huge influence until you get to the larger financial institutions. But as a first step, it would signal, I think, to the Chinese, look, we are seeing the reality in terms of what you are doing, or what you are not doing, more precisely, and we are responding in a way to try and change that calculus. And I think that's something the president could do quite quickly and should do.
Well, what about, you mentioned, you know, the economic ties that bind our countries, for lack of a better way of putting it. Lots of talk this week that we're gearing up for some kind of a trade war with China. China announced this week that they're going to offer foreign governments a tax break, at least temporarily, to try and persuade them to remain invested in China. This is in response to the new U.S. tax bill.
Right.
So are we gearing up for a trade war?
I don't know. I mean, at the moment, you look at President Trump, and he seems to have backed away from that. He's explicitly said, look, because of North Korea, because I want their help, I haven't pushed as hard on that issue.
But he might change.
But he might change.
Well, sort of what he was saying.
And I think, frankly, based on the level of threat that North Korea poses, with intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warheads, that is something that has to be considered. And I always come down on the angle that actually, because Chinese exports to the United States, to the rest of the world, tend to be more low value, are the things they import from us are sort of more higher value, actually, and we could take, Vietnam could offset some of those exports from China. In a trade sort of war situation, I think the Chinese would back down quite quickly. I think we have more economic levers. But of course, that is easy to say sitting here and not in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
And which ones do we pull for maximum effect? Which of those levers do we pull at any given moment for maximum effect? It seems like the president is saying, look, I've given you the benefit of the doubt for my first year in office, but I'm probably not going to do that anymore moving forward unless you make some concessions.
And I think, one thing to the president's credit, he does show this sort of flexibility in terms of dealing with different actors. I mean, we saw recently giving arms to Ukraine, the Obama administration. That shocked a lot of people because, of course, people thought, some people thought he was very pro-Russian. So.
All right. Well, Tom Rogan, Washington Examiner, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.